Okay, yesterday we started working on 6.4, multiplying integers. Notice, and I don't know if I pointed this out to everyone, but notice when we get our math sheets to glue into our notebooks, I'll always put what the text page is that goes along with it. So if you go home and you want to follow up on it in your textbook, I always have the text pages listed on our notebook pages. So you can bring your book home and get a little bit of extra help there. Or if mom and dad are going, oh, I'm not quite sure how you do this, show them the textbook and they can look at the textbook also. Sometimes instead of watching a video, we like to see it in print, and that's okay. That's why we have our textbooks. So just a review of what we talked about yesterday real quick. The sum of an integer and its opposite is 0. If we are multiplying, remember, sum means adding, product means we are multiplying. So if we are multiplying things with the same sign, a negative times a negative, a positive times a positive, our answer, that product, will always be positive. The product with different signs, so if we're multiplying, so that's the product, I'm multiplying a negative number times a positive number times a negative number, the answer will always be negative. So you need to remember those rules. And the product of any number and a 0 will always be 0. Negative 7 times 0 is 0. Positive 7 times 0 is 0. Doesn't matter if it's a negative or positive, the answer will always be 0. Yesterday we went through our examples and working on multiplying. Yesterday we also talked about what it means to be a square. Remember when you see that exponent, if it's a 2, it means you square it, and you multiply the number times itself. So you see 2 numbers that you are multiplying. And I pushed you ahead a little bit and said, it's the same with any exponent. If it's cubed, if there's a 3 up there, it means you're going to multiply it 3 times. Okay. Are you guys ready for something a little farther?
Yes.
Some of us want to hear it. When we are cubing a negative number, watch what happens. Negative 3 times negative 3 would be what answer, Brielle?
Positive 9.
Yeah, because it's a negative times a negative, so it's a positive 9. Now we multiply that by a negative 3. What's our answer going to be?
Negative 9? Wait.
Positive 9 times negative 3.
I thought we were doing that negative 3 times negative.
Positive 9 times negative 3.
Negative. Negative 27.
Yes. So when we're squaring it, and it was that negative 3 times negative 3, that was just 2 negatives, so our answer was a positive. But when we're cubing those negative numbers, there's another negative number we're multiplying. So now it's a positive times a negative, and your answer is going to be negative. So you have to work it through one step at a time, keeping in mind, is the answer going to be a positive or a negative? So you have to slow down when you're multiplying several numbers together. So sometimes if we're just multiplying 2, we know it's easy. Positive, positive, negative, negative. But if we're multiplying a list of numbers, we have to take it one number at a time. What's the product? Negative 9 times negative 9 is negative 3 times a negative 3 is a positive 9. Then we're multiplying it by a negative. So you have to do it one product at a time. All right, our homework for today was example 3. Most of Greenland is covered with ice that is almost 2 miles thick in some places. Scientists estimate that 3 feet of this ice melts each year. Find the change in thickness of the ice after 10 years. So in 1 year, it melts 3 feet. How many feet is it going to melt in 10 years? Will?
30 feet.
How did you find that?
3 times 10.
So we know it melts 3 feet in 1 year times the 10 feet in 10 years. Or sorry, not 10 feet, times 10 years. So we had 3 feet times our 10 years. Is that going to be a positive or a negative?
Positive.
What do you think? What are you confused about?
I don't understand.
So how do we know if it's going to be a negative or a positive? Nick,
It's a positive.
why?
Because 2 positive.
I wrote down a positive 3 because that's what Will told me.
Yeah, and there was also.
Is it supposed to be a positive 3?
No.
Why not?
She just said well, no, because I wrote down no. I did a negative 3.
Why did you do a negative 3?
No.
Any guesses? Look again at what our question says. Scientists estimate that 3 feet of this ice melts each year.
I was laughing.
The ice is melting. It's going away. So it is a negative. So now we have friends. We are recording this. No parent wants me to call your name out because you're still talking. When we melt, it's taking away. So it's very important when you are reading these word problems, especially when we know we're working with positive and negative numbers. It's very important that you pay attention. Is it going to be a positive or a negative? So melting means it's taking away, so it's negative. So now we have a negative times a positive. Will, do you want to change your answer or keep it at 30? Will W. Yeah, negative 30. Because it was a negative 3. So 30 feet melt away in 10 years. So it's a negative 30. So when you're doing word problems, you have to look for those kind of things. Because if it's a multiple choice, I guarantee there'll be a 30 and a negative 30 as your answer choices. And you need to decide which one is correct. If you were to just write 30 on the test, it would be wrong. 30 and negative 30 are very different. It doesn't grow 30 feet. It loses 30 feet. Nick.
Greenland is full of ice, and then Iceland's full of grass. It's not full of ice.
Yeah. The Vikings are very tricky when they did that because they wanted people to move to Greenland, even though it was kind of a nasty environment to move to. So they named it something inviting, even though it's not. But we're focusing on the math now. So be careful with word problems. Sometimes they put tricky stuff like that in there to catch you. All right, our assignment for today is doing the workbook pages that go with that. So that would be pages 73 and 74. We have a lot of work time. Oh, no voices. We have a lot of work time today. So if you get finished with it, I'm going to be passing back our old assignments, not 6.3, because I don't have that in my grade book yet, but 6.1, 6.2. And I want you to make sure that you're understanding it. Look back, the ones that you got wrong, and see if you can fix them. So it's always important to look back at our mistakes and to learn from them, so we will be ready for when it is time to take the test. The test might be next week, by the end of next week. So we need to be ready for that. Let me stop